This is the counter blitz precon, and this is the commander for the counter blitz precon, which is Tidus, Yuna's guardian. He reads: at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may move a counter from target creature you control onto a second target creature you control. Whenever one or more creatures you control with counters on them deal combat damage to a player, you may draw a card and proliferate. Do this only once each turn. The purpose of today's video is for us to playtest this commander deck turn by turn and go over the strategies, talk about how to think through while playing this commander deck so that you can decide whether you want to buy this deck or learn how to play so that you can win games, or just think about how you want to upgrade it. So what we're going to do is cut the deck like you just saw, and I'm going to draw 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And I think that we're actually going to choose to keep this land. It's a very land dominant hand, but we also have a ton of cards over here that we can use to get into play early. So I think it's a pretty good hand, actually. So we're going to imagine somebody just passed us the turn. We will draw the card into a farewell, which is great. We're getting a lot of Tidus and Yuna love action. And keep in mind, Waka calls Tidus Tetus. So that's why I call him Tidus and not Tidus. We're going to go ahead and play our land for turn, which is a Temple of Plenty, which is going to allow us to scry. We'll scry into an Ash Barrens. I think I'm going to do something unique. I'm actually going to keep this over here up top for a reason. We'll pass the turn, and then we will draw into that Ash Barrens. Now, what I'm going to do right now is we're going to get this command tower into play, and I want you to notice, new players, that we drew, this is a bit of a meta play right now, because we had in our opening hand 4 lands, and we ended up drawing to farewell, and then we drew into another land. We have a ton of lands in our hand right now, which would signify that when we take a look at our deck that we just shuffled, there's a really good chance that a lot of the lands that we have are in this pile right here. The Ash Barrens that we just drew, we can pay 1 mana, and then we can land cycle this land, so we can discard this and then search a library for a land and put it into our hand. So in other words, we get to shuffle our deck again so that we stop drawing into just lands. So I know it's a bit of a meta play. It's something that's pretty unique that you don't really see too often, but it's just something that exists. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tap 3 here. We're gonna end up playing Tidus during our next turn, and we're gonna get Shalinda, Yevon Acolyte into play, and you guys will see what Shalinda does in a second. We'll draw into another land. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? This is why we took the Ash Barrens. We're gonna now put island into play, and then we can tap 3, and we're gonna get Tidus on the battlefield. Now, because Tidus enters the battlefield, Shalinda reads: whenever another creature you control enters, put a counter on that creature if its power is less than Shalinda's power, of which is not. So that means we are going to put 1 counter onto Shalinda. And because you played a creature on turn 2, we are most likely going to be able to attack. We're going to go to combat and choose to forego Tidus's ability because we want our counter on Shalinda. We'll go and we will deal damage to somebody. Let's play the damage sound. Yeah, the satisfying damage sound. So we hit somebody for 3 damage. We're going to gain 3 life. And then Tidus's ability is going to trigger, which means, new players, that we are going to proliferate, which is going to put 1 counter over here. And then we are going to draw a card, and we'll draw into a sphere grid. And we're going to put a counter on that creature, any creature that deals damage. This is an excellent card, actually. Sphere Grid is really good. So we'll just pass turn over here. We'll untap. We'll draw into a Lord Jiskel Guado. It looks like we're not really drawing to those lands anymore, which is cool. How about we play the Glacial Fortress because we have an island in play and it'll enter untapped. And looking at our hand over here, so what we're going to choose to do right now is protect our creatures. You know, in Magic, it's important to make sure that you can protect the creatures because if they go away, they can't do anything, and we want to keep these creatures alive. So we're going to prioritize Together Forever here, which is going to enter the battlefield. We're going to support 2. So we're going to put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. So we're going to tap the white mana to get this into play. And now this is what, let me actually do this. This is what's going to happen over here. So we're going to support 2. So Tidus will get a counter, and then Shalinda will get a counter. So now I want you to notice this says when target creature with a counter on it, or choose target creature with a counter on it. When that creature dies, return it to its owner's hand. So in other words, we can use this to protect our creatures, imagining that there's going to be, if there's a board wipe, we can keep our creatures alive. We're keeping the 2 mana up available so that in case something does happen, we can use this mana to react in response. So we will move to combat, which is going to trigger Tidus. So what I think what we're going to do is remove a counter from Shalinda because we can. She was at 3, so she's going to go to 2, and then Tetus is going to go to 2. So this is a 4/4, Tetus is a 5/5. We will attack with both of these creatures, imagining that one of them deals damage, which is then going to cause us to proliferate. So they're both going to gain 1 counter, going to 3, and then 3. And then we will draw a card into a plains over here. And then what we're going to do is pass the turn. And we'll hold up this mana to keep our creatures protected. When we notice that nothing has happened to these creatures, I can pay 1 mana, and I'm going to cycle this Ash Barrens from my hand, which means I'm going to discard, like I said earlier, and we're going to search our library for a basic land card, and we're going to go ahead and put that into our hand. I'm just looking for the first land that I see, which is a forest. But most likely, you're just going to want to pick the color that you think that you need, if there's a color that you need. That's kind of the purpose of that card. We will untap everything and then draw for turn into a forest. We did that and got a land. That's just hilarious. All right, so hey, we got all the mana we need over here, guys. Things are looking pretty good. And I like how we've only put lands into play. We haven't ramped. And we're still able to play through the deck, which is nice, and make multiple plays every turn, which is why I think this Precon is really good. What we're going to do next is continue to be offensive. Let's go ahead and we'll tap 2. We'll play the Dust Shell Crawler. When this enters, you put a counter on target creature. Let's put a counter on the Crawler himself. And then each creature we control with a +1/+1 counter on it has trample. Let's actually do this. Let's not put the counter on the Crawler, and let's say we want to buff Tidus again. So Tidus will go to 4 counters, so he's now a 7/7 with trample. And I want to make I'm doing this for a reason. So we'll have that happen, and then we'll keep Lord Jiskel into, well, let's go ahead and play Lord Jiskel. Yeah, let's go ahead and play Lord Jiskel as well. So I want you to notice, new players, that our opponents know we have Together Forever in play, but we just created an opening to where right now, because I only have 1 mana available, I can only save 1 of my creatures. And technically, by not putting the counter on the Dust Shell Crawler, which technically I could move to combat, remove a counter, and put the counter back onto him, but let's just play this through, just so you guys see. We'll go to combat. I'm going to choose not to move a counter or do anything. Because of the Dust Shell Crawler, each creature we control with the +1/+1 counter now has trample. We're going to go to combat, attack with both of these creatures. They're going to deal damage, and then we're going to put another counter on each of these creatures, which will then cause us to draw a card and another land. Oh my god, the land. This is a deck of nothing but lands. And then what we're going to do is pass a turn. And let's just say that somebody casts a board wipe. Yay, explosion, board wipe. And then because we only have 1 mana available, I can only save 1 creature. And the creature that I'm going to choose to save in this situation is gonna be Shalinda, because we can get Tidus out of our command zone anyway again, so that doesn't really matter to me. But because we didn't put a counter on the Crawler, we're gonna lose our Crawler, and we're gonna lose Lord Jiskel as well, in which we actually are supposed to investigate. So we do have it. We'll just imagine that this card right here is an investigate token, so we can sacrifice that for 2 mana and draw a card. So we lose, or Shalinda's gonna go back to our hand because of Together Forever, and then we're gonna untap and then draw for turn into another land, the flooded. Dude, isn't that unique? I am mana flooded right now, totally mana flooded. If you're an experienced player, you know what that means. If you're a new player, when you're flooded, that means you have too many lands. So now in this situation, we could do something. Like, how important is everything in play right now? This Together Forever is good, but it could be better. So how about, like, let's just imagine somebody made a really big play, somebody just wiped the board, and now when we had the turn passed to us, people have to play out their cards. So they're rebuilding their board state, they're putting things back onto the battlefield. We're in a point of the game where people have a lot of land, so they're putting, you know, expensive things into play. So one of my favorite things to do is, after a board wipe, let everyone rebuild and then wipe the board again immediately. So what we're going to do is I'm going to tap 6 and play one of the best board wipes in the entirety of Magic the Gathering. And we're going to cast Farewell. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose to exile all artifacts, all creatures, and all graveyards. We'll keep our Farewell over here. I could say enchantments and just get rid of... Let's just say enchantments. We'll get rid of everything. So now everything gets destroyed or exiled, whatever that would look like. And then now all of this is gone from the game. And now we've totally reset everything. And then we would just pass a turn after that. And then we would untap and draw into something that's... Dude, the symbolism behind all this is amazing. We just farewelled, and now we draw into Sin, Unending Cataclysm, which himself is basically a flying board wipe inside the game. If you played Final Fantasy, you know what Sin is like. We'll put an Exotic Orchard into the game, and now, because we're in this position, we can go ahead and start just playing the game. So I think we'll just get 1-2. We'll put Shalinda back into play. I can pay 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and replay Tidus. We'll go ahead and pass the turn. Now that people are like debilitated and rebuilding their board state because they just rebuilt their board state and then we removed it again, we'll go ahead and play this Plains. And then we are going to choose to count our mana. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lands. So what I think we want to do here is build our counters. So we're going to tap 2. I'm going to play the Sphere Grid. Now, whenever a creature we control deals combat damage to a player, Shalinda is supposed to get a counter. Whenever we deal combat damage to a player, we put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. And then creatures with counters on them have Reach and Trample, which is amazing. The Sphere Grid is an awesome card. We're going to go to combat. We'll have Shalinda deal combat damage to somebody, doing the damage sound. And then we're going to proliferate. This is going to go to 2. She dealt damage, so that's going to go to 3. And then we're going to draw a card, which is another land, an Overflowing Basin. The mana is overflowing. We're just going to go ahead and pass the turn. Oh, that's not the pass the turn button. We're just going to go ahead and pass the turn correctly. We're going to draw into a 3 visits, another way to get more lands. Am I becoming a land right now? Have I turned my reality into a land? Is my life nothing but lands? Do I have to like go out into the land or something? Is this a sign? Sign from above. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. We're gonna go ahead and play Sin. Actually, let's not do that right now. Let's go to combat because we're gonna play intelligently. I'm gonna remove a counter and then I'm gonna move a counter onto Tidus. Now they both have trample. Now we deal damage. They're both gonna hit somebody, and then we're gonna get a counter here. We're gonna get a counter here. We will draw a card, imagining that we didn't tap all of our lands. And then what we're gonna do is now we play Sin. And you're gonna see in a second why we did that way, tapping 7, playing Sin. And now Sin says, as Sin enters, remove all counters from any artifacts, creatures, and enchantment. Sin enters with X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is twice the number of counters removed this way. So we have 5 counters in play. So he's going to remove all of these and then gain 10, because 5 + 5 is 10. So Sin right now is a 15/15 flying trample, and we will then go ahead and pass a turn after that, getting the feel for how this deck plays, understanding, you know, right now we're pretty much going to stop right here. I hope you guys learned a bit. We learned a little bit of just things that are just generally good to do in Magic the Gathering, not so much things that are just specific to this commander deck. So, you know, that's what this deck does. I think this deck is very resilient. You know, we didn't really get to see the cards like Orin. There are a lot of other cards like Kimari that really help to control. And then when you get cards that allow you to double up the amount of counters that you're putting on creatures, so a card like Hardened Scales, that every single time we add a counter, we get an extra counter, our creatures just grow exponentially large, and we can go from having a no board state to having a board state full of 5/5, 6/6s with trample, and it just really gets out of hand really quickly. This commander deck, I think, is actually really fun and incredibly well made, and just a good time. So if you're thinking about investing the money into picking up this deck, you know, it's gonna be, this deck will be as cheap, whatever price this is now for this deck. Understand that it will be doubled if you're watching this at some point in the future. So if you're thinking about picking it up now, get it now, because it's only going to get more expensive as time goes on. I have the other Final Fantasy decks over here that I have to make videos for. I'm going to do the same thing with. So if you want to see those videos, make sure that you're subscribed to this channel so that you can see them when they get uploaded. Okay, if there's one over here in particular you want to see next, just let me know in the comments below. Okay, always remember, everybody, eat healthy, work out every single day. Shout out to the channel members. Okay, and most importantly, everybody's got to remember to believe in themselves. All right, peace out, people. Have fun with this deck.
That's disrespectful. I'm gonna throw you. I'm gonna do it again. Come on. I'm gonna do this. Stop the throw. Come on, right in the face. Do it again. Stop it. You can't stop it. Ow, that seemed unnecessary, dude. What was that all about, bro? Dude, we just put his knee right in his chest, dude.